Today we're going to be talking about something that every musician probably hates talking about: taxes. Tax season is coming up and it happens every single year. It's something that you cannot avoid if you're a musician, if you're a working professional musician, because if you're a professional musician, you're also a business. And because you have a business, you're running a business, you're going to be wanting to pay those taxes so that way you don't get in trouble by the IRS. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things that has helped me stay organized right before tax season as a musician, some of the deductions that I have used so that way I can be more tax efficient when tax season comes around. Now, I want to be upfront that all the information that I'm about to give you is purely for entertainment purposes only. I am not a tax professional. If you have any questions in regards to budgeting, accounting, filing for taxes, you want to talk to a tax professional in your area. So I want to be upfront about that before we get to the video. If you're a working musician, there are a couple things that you should think about when you are filing your taxes. First things first, you have to understand what kind of business you are. Are you an LLC, which is also a limited liability company, or are you a sole proprietor? You can run a business using your social security card in the United States. A limited liability company, LLC, you have like a specific employer identification number, so that way when you're doing business with music, you can use your LLC EIN for various musical transactions. It also helps you be more organized during tax season. But if you're watching this video and you're kind of freaking out, don't freak out. A lot of musicians are sole proprietors, which means that you can use your social security number as part of your business, and you could easily do the cash flow method for regular deductions, expenses, etc. And that's actually the most common way to do it as a solopreneur or a solo musician. If you are like a famous professional musician, you probably have like a manager, a person who does your taxes for you. So, disregard this video. But if you're like a freelancer like myself, sole proprietor could be the way to go because it's just easier to get done. So tax season can be overwhelming. It could be stressful because, we want to make sure that we're not paying too much to the IRS. We want to make sure we're paying just enough. And this is where it helps to get a tax pro to understand what the deductions are. When you're running a business, you also have expenses, which will eventually lead to deductions. Now, I want to be clear that deductions do not mean credit. So just because you spend $50 does not mean that you're going to get a full deduction of $50 or you're going to get a credit back to your business $50. It's not like the government is going to give you $50 because you spent it. That's not how it works. The government is going to take your money either way. Just be clear that you want to make sure that you are making necessary expenses. You're not overspending with your budget, so that way you could, have some money left over for anything that is absolutely necessary to run your business. For me as a violinist, some of those deductions include strings. It may include a violin case, and it could mean bow rehairs. Those would be some of the things that I would use as an expense for my business, and I would deduct it. But there's a very simple way to go about the whole accounting process. I want to recommend an accounting software that's really helped me. It's by Intuit. You probably have heard of it, QuickBooks, and specifically the QuickBooks Self-Employed, which is something that I use religiously. If you are, on the go, if you're driving around, you also have like an app that you can use on your smartphone where you can deduct the miles. If you're driving to a gig or you're driving to a person's house for a lesson, then that it's a very easy way to help you stay on track with how many miles you are driving. You can also make sure that either it's a personal drive or a business drive, so that way you're not doing too much of the business mileage, because then you might get in trouble if you're using all your miles as business miles. Then it could be a little bit sketchy for the IRS, and you might get an audit. So you want to make sure that you are being clear about the personal miles that you're driving to the gig and personal or business miles. You're already so busy. You want something that is easy to use and something that you can have so that way you can refer to every month. You have great budget reports, you have income reports, all set in QuickBooks. And again, that's something that I use. I want to give my audience 50% off the first 6 months of use. But I digress. I'll leave the links in the description below so that way you can check them out. So you might be wondering, what is an acceptable deduction in our line of work? We're gonna go ahead to turbotax.com to take a look. This is a free resource. I'm gonna also link that in the description below and you can follow along as we go. Great, so I have this web page open for TurboTax, and this is a great resource for someone who's wanting to know what they can deduct in terms of expenses for their business when we come to tax season in 2022 for the 2021 tax. So let's go ahead, we'll scroll down. This is self-employed photographer, but we are interested in music. So we have a couple options: music and sound recording. If you run a record label, or if you run a music studio, a recording studio to be specific, then, you know, let's just click on it just for fun. What can you deduct? The IRS allows you to deduct expenses that are directly related to your business activities. Here's some common deductions for music and sound recording. For instance, audio software, audio tablet, headphones, recording equipment, other asset expenses. Those are some of the assets. And you can see here that you have various categories on what you can deduct. Let's go to supplies. Computer accessories, recording accessories, those are supply expenses. That's actually something that I needed to purchase. As a matter of fact, I needed to buy an interface so that way I can connect my microphone to this interface and get high quality audio for doing YouTube videos and recordings. So I definitely will use that as a deduction. Now let's go ahead to the music performing. So I'm gonna write music performing because that's mostly in my field, and that's probably gonna be in your field as well. So assets, we have musical instruments, music editing software, amplifiers. Let's say you play an electric guitar. You need to pay for pedals, you need to pay for amps. So those are some things that you can really have to pay for long term. So that's an asset. Supplies, like I said earlier, equipment accessories, sheet music and books are another thing. Instrument accessories, cases, strings, reeds, tuners, metronomes. Reeds are mostly for the people who are woodwind instruments like bassoonists, oboes, clarinet, because they need to pay for that equipment to help improve their business to be able to play. Advertising for your own personal brand, for your own personal business cards, websites, brochures, fees paid to advertising agencies, other advertising expenses, business insurance. Yeah, property insurance like musical instrument insurance, or you could also have like liability insurance, because when you're doing events such as weddings or private events, you want to make sure you have a little bit of liability insurance so that way when something goes south, you are protected. So that is one thing that you could also consider in the insurance pile over here. If you're like an event manager, or if you're running a wedding ensemble business. Let's scroll down here. Business travel. If you are traveling a lot around the country, around the world, that is an expense. You have to travel to a destination. You have to put your own business money as an expense to pay for flight tickets. Now, I'm not saying that you go spend on business class, or you do everything to spend like on highest luxury. You're only doing the things that are absolutely necessary to run your business. So let's say hotels, airfare, you have rental cars, like taxis and like Uber, Lyft, all that stuff, baggage fees, anything that's related to travel, you can deduct if it's for business use only. Legal and professional fees, tax preparation fees, like an accountant, meals and entertainment. So, based on this video might be outdated, a few years in the future. So I definitely want you to double check what the limits are for meals, entertainment, the deductions for all of this that I'm explaining in this video, because the tax laws can change. We had a recent tax change, a few years ago in the United States. But you should always check your tax professional to really make sure that you are on top of it, that you are following all the rules. You definitely don't want to mess with the IRS, especially if you owe them money. So meals and entertainment, 50% limit. Meals, 50% limit. This is during the travel. So if you spend $10, you'll get deduction of $5 instead of the full $10. Office expenses. I don't see why Unless you maybe do like a music private studio, I don't see why you might have office supplies. Or I guess you might want to have that deduction, like if you're buying paper to print out sheet music. Although a lot of music is going digital because you have iPads, you have so many apps nowadays that are working really well with pedals, so you don't have to spend so much money on paper for trees and ink, of course, because all that can get really pricey really quickly. So and then vehicle, obviously you have the mileage, the gas, oil changes, and that's something that actually I deduct, for the mileage, because I use my own personal car for traveling, for gigs and orchestra concerts and chamber music concerts, etc., and for teaching. So I don't like have a full car that's dedicated to my business. Maybe in the future I will, if I set up an LLC or something like that, that I just dedicate one vehicle for business. But at the moment, I'm just doing the mileage system. It's really easy, especially if you have the QuickBooks app. I recommend that. And then wages and miscellaneous expenses, accompanist fees. Yeah, like if you're a violinist like I am, you most likely will be playing with the pianist, with a collaborative artist. So you want to be able to pay your collaborative artist their fare or their the wage that they request. And again, that is an expense because that helps run your business. Music conferences, there are a lot of violin conferences, string conferences in the United States and around the world. Photography services, I can see this being used for like headshots, promotional material for like album covers. If you're recording an album, that photography services can really help, and other expenses. Now I know taxes are usually supposed to be submitted by April each year, but it's never too early to start thinking about this stuff, because the earlier you get on top of this, the better off you're going to be financially. Now I know taxes are due like every April, and if you're smart, you should be actually submitting quarterly tax payments every quarter. You definitely should be doing that if you're an entrepreneur or sole proprietor business, because that just helps you stay on track of the payments for your taxes. And in addition, you don't get hit with a penalty if you don't pay your taxes quarterly. So there's that information. Now, after watching this video, you have a bunch of different deductions that are available to you. However, you want to make sure that you are not over deducting, you're not overspending on your business, because you want to prove to the IRS that you are actually making a profit every single year. Or if there's an off year, that's fine, but it happens, I think, every 3 years. Don't quote me on that, but again, talk to your tax professional about starting a business, and whether it's sole proprietor or LLC. You want to be showing that you are increasing your profits. So you can't be overspending too much, because then that kind of turns the IRS heads, and that could raise some red flags. So really be careful about spending, and understanding that deductions do not mean credits. Just because you spend money for an expense does not mean that you're gonna get a huge deduction, because at the end of the day, the IRS wants their money. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you gain a lot of value for this, and check out some of the links in the description to help you become more efficient financially as a musician. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Eric. I'm a violinist. Thanks so much for coming across this video and for this channel. I do a lot of violin tutorial tips to help you become a better violinist. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, so that way you get notified for when new videos come out. It also helps me out as a content creator to provide more videos like this for you. Please make sure to check out other violin videos on the channel that I have, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much.